Nearly 700 North Korean soldiers have just touched down in Burkina Faso, but they're not part of any peacekeeping force. These troops, among the most elite in North Korea's military, have arrived with a different mission. Their presence has shocked the global stage, especially Western powers, as questions arise about why one of the most isolated regimes on Earth would suddenly step in to defend an African leader. And perhaps more importantly, why now in a region long shaped by NATO and French influence? The arrival of North Korean commandos signals a seismic shift in geopolitics. The Burkina Faso government has openly confirmed their arrival. This isn't a covert operation or a leak. Both Pyongyang and Ouagadougou have verified the deployment through official channels. The purpose? Protect a transitional government, secure key strategic assets, and transfer specialized security training to local forces. These commandos didn't come bearing aid supplies or diplomatic handshakes. They came armed and coordinated, reportedly, involved in internal security operations. Their mission includes defending infrastructure such as airports, military bases, and gold processing facilities, as well as training domestic forces in areas ranging from anti-coup tactics to guerrilla warfare. According to insiders, this was not a last-minute decision. Preparations were made in advance, exercises were conducted quietly, and crucial government officials were briefed before the public was even aware. Sources close to Burkina Faso's intelligence agencies indicate that internal threats have increased in recent months. Alleged coup plots, intercepted communications, and infiltration attempts have put the country's leadership on high alert. President Ibrahim Traoré, a young military leader who has defied international expectations, now faces dangers from within and beyond his borders. In response, his administration reached out not only to Russian partners, but also to Pyongyang, a bold, strategic move that took many by surprise. What North Korea offers isn't just manpower. It brings with it counter-surveillance systems, encrypted communication tools, and elite training methodologies refined under extreme isolation. This is not about peacekeeping. It's about power projection and state survival. The deployment gives North Korea an opportunity to test its tactics in real-time conditions, something it rarely experiences outside its own borders. Beyond military strategy, there's a deeper ideological connection. For Pyongyang, Traoré represents the kind of leadership it admires: defiant, sovereign, and unyielding to external control. He hasn't courted Western donors or bowed to foreign demands. That independence makes him an ideal ally in North Korea's eyes. Supporting his regime sends a message: those who stand against imperialism will not stand alone. Strategically, this partnership also opens doors for trade and influence. Bypassing traditional global financial systems, discussions of barter-based exchanges, minerals for tech, protection for infrastructure are believed to be in motion. And as Western influence weakens across Africa, North Korea sees a rare opening to establish a new footprint. Pyongyang has quietly rekindled diplomatic ties with other African nations and is working to create low-cost, mutual defense agreements with states that reject foreign interference. Burkina Faso is more than just a battleground. It's become a staging ground for a new world order. As Western forces exit and regional blocs like ECOWAS lose credibility, non-Western alliances are stepping in. The Russians were the first wave. Now the North Koreans have followed, but with an entirely different model. No headlines, no conditions, no lectures, just soldiers and strategy. This move isn't about symbolism. It's about reshaping the balance of global power from the ground up. Each time a North Korean trainer briefs a local soldier, each time they conduct joint exercises, it chips away at the narrative of Western dominance. It shows that an alternative exists, one not bound by Washington, Brussels, or Paris. Perhaps most importantly, Burkina Faso offers North Korea a space to operate outside the surveillance of Western intelligence. The rural terrain, limited foreign oversight, and reduced international scrutiny allow for a degree of military and technological freedom that North Korea rarely enjoys. For President Traoré, this partnership provides a powerful shield. He no longer stands alone against threats. He now has backup from a nation that, though controversial, is undeniably committed to protecting its allies. This is not merely about stationing troops. It's about rebuilding a national defense network resistant to external meddling. It's a tactical alliance wrapped in ideology, and it's part of a much bigger blueprint, a world where African nations are no longer passive players but are choosing their own path, even if that means partnering with one of the most heavily sanctioned nations on earth. The message is clear. The global chessboard is changing, and Africa is no longer playing by the old rules. What's happening in Burkina Faso isn't just a temporary military deployment, it's the start of a larger transformation. President Ibrahim Traoré, surrounded by threats both internal and external, knows that foreign troops alone won't protect a nation from collapse. True security isn't just about survival, it's about restructuring the very systems that once left you vulnerable. That's precisely what's unfolding now. With the arrival of North Korean forces, the country has quietly entered a new era, one of sweeping defense reform and strategic recalibration. Traoré isn't just patching up holes in a broken structure. He's rebuilding the foundation. The weaknesses of past regimes, fragmented military command, conflicting loyalties, and externally influenced intelligence are being rooted out. A new framework is being implemented, one that values internal allegiance, strategic self-reliance, and uncompromising state defense. This transition began in silence. Individuals in sensitive roles were reassigned, retired, or rotated, often following assessments supported by North Korean advisors. These removals weren't publicized but were deliberate, targeting weak points that posed risks to the presidency. The Presidential Guard received advanced training not just in standard protection, but in encrypted communications, lockdown protocols, and advanced threat detection. These lessons weren't borrowed from Western military textbooks. They were modeled on elite North Korean protection units, forces trained under strict secrecy, ideological commitment, and internal discipline. The result? A leaner, more loyal, and more responsive security force. One of the biggest changes has come in the realm of intelligence. For decades, Burkina Faso's intelligence agencies were influenced, if not directly managed, by foreign embassies. Information was filtered, edited, and in some cases leaked long before it reached national leadership. That era is now ending. Under Traoré's direction, a new internal surveillance system is being deployed, designed to catch subversion before it escalates. We now observe for ourselves, one senior official said anonymously, instead of observing on behalf of others. This new intelligence philosophy focuses on identifying infiltration, confirming absolute loyalty, and intercepting conspiracies at their roots. Field agents are trained to think like saboteurs, not just soldiers, to predict a coup before uniforms appear or a weapon is raised. And the transformation is not limited to the capital. In provinces especially prone to insurgent activity, direct communication lines have been set up between the president and field commanders. These bypass the old bureaucratic structures that were once used by foreign powers to delay decisions or manipulate outcomes. This two-tier system, formal command structures, complemented by loyalty-based direct channels, is heavily inspired by North Korea's own defense architecture. However, Traoré isn't copying Kim Jong-un. He's adapting what works, blending it with a Pan-African ethos of resistance and implementing it to serve local realities. It's not about ideology, it's about resilience. The early results are telling. Military morale, once divided, is now rallying behind a clear chain of command. Incidents of infiltration have declined. Potential internal threats have been quietly dismantled before they could act. And this evolving doctrine is starting to influence neighboring states. Mali and Niger, both part of the AES alliance, have held joint meetings to discuss similar restructuring measures. The idea isn't to replicate North Korea but to adopt principles of sovereignty, counter-surveillance, and internal control in a way that fits the Sahel region's needs. Traoré understands that threats don't always wear uniforms or come with flags. Sabotage can be invisible. Coups can be coordinated through code, not guns. That's why he's shifting the focus from reaction to prevention, from defense to deterrence. And that shift is having a ripple effect far beyond Burkina Faso. What we're witnessing is the rise of a new model of foreign cooperation in Africa. It's no longer dependent on conditional aid, empty promises, or external interference. With assistance from sanctioned powers like Russia and North Korea, African nations are experimenting with alliances based on shared interests, rather than imposed values. In place of Western influence, alternatives are emerging in intelligence, military training, and even trade. This new axis isn't built on charity. Russia gains diplomatic support and access to gold-backed trade. North Korea receives field data, global recognition, and a rare foothold in a region long dominated by the West. And countries like Burkina Faso get what they've long been denied: unwavering, agenda-free support. Already, Niger is exploring barter-based deals in minerals and defense hardware. Mali is implementing surveillance strategies inspired by North Korean systems. These moves aren't coincidental, they're coordinated. What began as a defense pact is becoming a new geopolitical alignment, one that sidesteps global financial institutions and rejects dependency. And the world is paying attention, from Guinea to Chad. Even politically unstable nations are now asking, what if we don't need the IMF? What if we don't need foreign peacekeepers? What if we protect ourselves? This shift terrifies the old order, not because of coups, but because of the possibility of irrelevance. The model taking shape in Burkina Faso, if widely adopted, could dismantle the entire Western foreign policy playbook in Africa. No more regime change in the name of democracy. No more conditional aid as leverage. No more proxy conflicts. In its place is a rising political identity rooted in independence, unity, and resistance. This isn't just about West Africa anymore. It's connecting to movements in Latin America and Southeast Asia, where nations are tired of being told what they can and cannot do. The world is quietly recalibrating, and Burkina Faso is no longer a footnote, it's the blueprint. With the backing of powers once considered outcasts, Burkina Faso is proving that Africa can forge its own path. For the first time, it isn't asking for permission, it's leading. And that's why the arrival of those 700 North Korean troops matters not for the rifles they carry, but for the message they send. Western dominance is fading, and a new chapter in African sovereignty is being written not in Brussels or Washington, but in Ouagadougou. This is no longer theory, it's reality. Burkina Faso isn't just surviving, it's redefining what power looks like on the African continent, and the world is being forced to watch, respond, or step aside.